learning how to communicate with all of our different personalities was just eye-opening. I mean, it really was. I loved it, and I loved seeing, doing the personality test and all the different personalities and finding out everybody's love languages. And it just enabled us to be able to communicate on a different level and on a better level with them by understanding how my personality meshed with theirs and how my husband's personality meshed with theirs.
Welcome to Real Talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches, where we discuss all aspects of parenting using the foundation of understanding personality dynamics to raise independent, responsible, and resilient children. My name is Karen Wagner, founder of Teaching Our Youth and the Parenting Blueprint. Let's dig right in with today's topic and have some real talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Real Talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches. As you know, I'm Karen Wagner, founder of Teaching Our Youth and the Parenting Blueprint. And for today on this episode, we are going to talk about real families and real results. And I'm joined today with two moms who had gone through the Parenting Blueprint program when their kids were teenagers, which tends to be the wonky time when we're parenting our kids, when we start to see a shift in the relationship. And it's been a couple of years since both of you have gone through the program. And it's wonderful, number one, to see you again and kind of get a check-in on how everything has gone since you went through the program. And so if we could just kind of start with a short intro, a little bit about yourself and how old were your kids when you started to realize something's going on here and I feel as though I might need to get some help. And so, Brittany, I'll start with you. Have you introduce yourself, and then let's go over to Jen.
Sure. Hi. Glad to be here and talk with you again and kind of reconnect after a while. My name is Brittany Lovelace, and I came to Karen about 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago. My daughter was just turned 14 and was entering in 9th grade. And we were going through some different challenges with her. My situation, this may speak to some of you if you're in a parenting, in this parenting group, or if you're a coach looking. My daughter's adopted. It's an open adoption. It's been open from birth. She's very, very aware of all the situation. She knows her birth parents, both mother and father now, but birth mom has been part of her life, all of her life. So I was dealing with a slightly different situation of understanding someone who did not come from my biology and whose brain did not tick like mine. Even if a kid is my biology, it may not tick like mine, but I was also dealing with that next component of understanding someone who truly didn't have the same genetic makeup as me. So I didn't realize that maybe the way that I was approaching things and doing things, although they were very well intended and I spent a ton of time learning, I didn't understand how she needed me to be a mom certain times to reach her where she was at and the way that she ticked, the way that her brain worked, the way that her emotions worked. So I was at a crossroads where I didn't want to have my daughter grow away from me because we had been, and she was really exerting a lot of resistance, not rebelling and doing anything bad, but just a lot of, I hate you, you're the worst, I don't want anything to do with you. And it was just butting heads at every corner. And no matter what I tried to do, it was like she was pushing harder. I tried to love her harder. She pushed me back harder. And I was broken. I thought, I'm going to lose my child. And as a mother, that's the best thing I've ever had. I mean, I run a business, but that's nothing compared to being a mom to me. So it was like, I've got to figure this out. I've got to find where this disconnect is. Because I don't want my kid to leave my house in a few years and not want to be close to me, because I love her and I'm close to her and I'm loving her more and we're getting further apart. So I had seen the Parenting Blueprint in Karen's group. I'd been an onlooker for a while and reached out to her and she sent me some info and we did a quick intake call. And I just was like, I feel like in that moment, when I talked with Karen, it was almost like I had hope for the first time in a year, thinking, I finally have someone who's like hearing what I'm saying, you're not doing this wrong. You just have to meet her where she's at. It's not that you're doing it badly, not that you're not loving her enough. You just got to learn to love her the way she receives love and the way her brain and emotions work. And I lost my mom about 14 years ago. So having somebody who had walked through this with her own children and shared her own personal experience helped me to be like, okay, I'm not crazy. It doesn't mean I'm a bad mom. It means that I'm a loving, concerned mom, but but I got to learn how to do it differently, because banging my head against this wall is only giving me more pain and her. And I don't want that. So that's when I reached out to her, and that's kind of how my journey started. Is that a good kind of intro, Karen?
That was great. Yeah, you went through a lot. And so, Brittany, I do remember when you came to me, you were just feeling heartbroken that the relationship that you had with Bella had been so close and you were so connected, considering all of those background circumstances you had with her adoption. And you were starting to feel that pushback. And then the fear sets in. And then we start reacting almost differently because it's almost like we're trying to hold them closer. And the more you did, I remember, the more she was pushing you away, and it was just breaking your heart. And so we'll talk a little bit more about how we brought that together as we go through this. So Jen, come on in and tell us a little bit about your background and your boys.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Uttenreither, and thank you so much for asking me to share today. I met Karen actually in a Facebook teen group, teenage moms of teenage boys. And I think I can offer a little different perspective from Brittany, because I guess I'm very lucky or very blessed in that my kids, I didn't really have any issues. I mean, typical teenage things, but nothing major, no major issues with them. And I had just, I started conversing with Karen and then joined her group and was just interested in what she had to say and what she was doing. And I spoke to my husband. I just wanted to learn how to communicate, or we did. We wanted to learn how to communicate a little better with our children. So no major issues, just wanted to learn how to communicate. And I think learning how to communicate with all of our different personalities was just eye-opening. I mean, it really was. I loved it. And I loved seeing, doing the personality test and all the different personalities and finding out everybody's love languages. And it just enabled us to be able to communicate on a different level and on a better level with them by understanding how my personality meshed with theirs and how my husband's personality meshed with theirs. And I believe I came to you about 3.5 years ago as well. So sort of like the same time frame.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so you were just wanting to be proactive, Jen.
Yeah.
So you were starting to see, I think, the teen attitude maybe kind of sets in. I think you had one son that maybe was a little harsher in his tone towards you than the other one. One was very relational, and the other one was, well, they're just so different, right? I mean, all our kids are wired so differently. What is going on, and why is he so nice, and he just keeps pushing me away? And when we were able to uncover that with the use of the data of the assessments, you could see that they were just wired completely different. So I love the fact that rather than waiting till we were in crisis mode, and Brittany, you kind of connected early on too. You didn't wait till it got real bad. You were sensing that there were some changes happening in the relationship, where sometimes parents wait until we're further down the road. Now we got a lot of repair and restore, and we got to turn that around and fix that. And so you both came in at a time where, especially at adolescence, where the relationship is going to change. But are we prepared to make the changes in the relationship as compared to where we were when we were parenting them, when they were solely dependent on us for everything? All of a sudden, they're pushing back and they don't need us anymore. They don't want to spend as much time. They may tend to isolate or want to be on their own. Friends and peers have more pull than we do. And we start to fear the loss of the relationship. And that can cause us to start thinking some negative thoughts about where we're going to be in 10 years if we don't bring that back together again. So, how did the Parenting Blueprint really change your approach to parenting? Because we do take this as a transformational approach, working with the personalities and the data. And Jen, I'll punt this to you first. And you alluded to some of that in in your previous conversation, that understanding the personalities was helpful to you. But how did that specifically change your approach to your two boys, because they are so different?
Well, we would just talk to them in different ways. So with Dylan was more of the dominant personality. So I learned that I had to give Dylan choices when, wanting him to do something or asking him to do something. It had to be a choice for him. With Eli, it had to be more, because he was more of the inspiration. So with him, it was more of, asking him to do something, and then just saying thank you very much. So just two different ways of approaching how we talk to them, or how we ask them to do things, how we involve them in the conversations. I remember early on talking to you about chores, and instead of telling them that they had to do chores and telling them what chores, we sat down as a family and made a list, and almost like put the power in their hands by having them choose. Even though we knew we wanted to do these chores, we had them choose which ones they were going to do, and it made it seem like they took that on and brought it about. So
when we are entering into that age of adolescence where they are becoming more independent and they don't want to be told what to do, what you did is you invited them to the table and gave them a voice. The outcome was going to be the same, but you didn't end up in a power struggle because of a different approach where you brought them in to it rather than dictating and telling them this is what they're going to do. That was the family meeting approach, right? That's what I think is it's a wonderful approach to do. And we can even start it in those younger years where then the kids even know from a younger age that we sit down and we talk about it and we have a voice, and we don't always get our way. The kids don't always get their way, but at least they have a voice at the table and they know mom and dad are hearing what they're saying. Another thing that I really appreciate about the two of you is that you came in as a couple, both of you. Brittany, you came in with Michael, and Jen, you came in with your hubby, and to be able to have that relationship where you are both working together towards a common goal, I thought was really powerful in your results in the end. So Brittany, tell me a little bit about how the Parenting Blueprint approach kind of changed the way you saw things in your relationship with Bella.
Yeah, so I never really had thought about how different her personality was than mine and even my husband's. So all three of us are very different. We all tick different, we all think different, we all respond different. And so when all three of us did the personality test and we realized, oh, the things that make us feel loved, seen, heard are all different. And the things that actually irritate us or make us feel like we are not being seen, heard, and loved are different. And so I realized quickly that I was approaching her in the way that I would need to feel love and to feel seen in her, but that is not what she was needing. And because I was so fearful that all of a sudden she was just so resistant and to me and just so angry at me for nothing. I mean, and nothing would happen. And she was just angry I existed. I realized I was like clinging harder. I was like, okay, so if I do this more, and I was like a helicopter hovering parent. I was like, okay, let me fix this. Let me do that. Let me try this. I like grabbing at straws. But all these things were pushing her away because she was needing space and time to process. She was needing to have more of a chance to think through things before she decided to take a risk or decided to want to talk to me or share with me. And for her, she needed space and time to feel independent, whereas I was smothering the crap out of her. I was in her space. I was in her face. And it wasn't mad. I was just, what happened today? How's your day? How'd your grades go? How's school? It was like, she was like, oh my gosh, just shut up and leave me alone. And so I was like, well, why? What did I do wrong? How can I fix it? What's going on? What are you angry about? Did I do something? Did someone else? I'm like, but she just needed me to back up and let her have a moment and process. And sometimes I learned she really needed to vent, and she vented in not a nice way always. So sometimes I had to be like, I can tell you've had a bad day, or it sounds like something might be bothering you, or I'm here if you want to talk about it, but I know you just need some space right now. So those were things before I'd want to fix it. And I learned with her personality type, she doesn't want me to fix it. Most of us don't want to be fixed, but she didn't want to talk about it right away. She did want to talk about it when she was ready. And so if I backed up and said, hey, I'm here if you need me, maybe I'd knock on her door and say, I know you just got home from school. If you need me, I'm out in the other room. Instead of walking in, talking to her, drilling her with love, but to her, it felt like, just leave me alone. I've had a day. And she was really in an identity crisis time in her life with the adoption. She won't probably ever, I don't know if she's at the age where she even can understand that right now. We've talked about it more, but she was really trying to figure out, who am I? Where do I come from? What is my identity? What's next for me? Why is this the way it is? You're at an age where you're figuring yourself out. And, she was really trying to just put all these pieces together. And there is a lot of trauma with adoption, even in good adoption. And so that was a component that I knew I couldn't fix. The more I understood adoption, I could only be there and give her space to feel it. So that was another realization I had, just to really give her that space to explore and have the conversation she needed to, and support her the best I could in that. But definitely, how we approached her was different. And I started giving her way more space, like little things like staying out of her space or, looking for the moment she needed me and being fully present to those, but not expecting her to need me all the time because she had to process some of that on her own. And the more I pushed, the more I backed up, the more she started to come out of her shell and want me to be included, not in everything, but in some things.
I remember going back to those coaching calls and having those moments reflecting back where you are so relational. So when we look at the DISC model, Brittany, you are very inspiring and supportive. Rebecca was supportive and her. So you really like the relationship and the engagement where she was a little bit more reserved and wanted her space. And so that's where we found the gap in your inspiring and her cautious were polar opposites. So that's some of the things that when we were working with Brittany that we found that were your differences. We had that opposite where she just wanted that time to think and process things where you were trying to engage and you were invading her space. That's pretty much, get out of my face, get out of my face. I love the way you said that because how many parents go through that? But when we saw the data, you could understand that this is what she needed. But sometimes the hardest part is, but I desire the connection with her. I desire.
I will say, Karen, you helped me realize if I want that connection with her, I have to meet her how she can give it to me. And it was hard because I felt like I was not doing enough. I was wanted to do more, but I realized doing more was actually pushing her away. And to her, it wasn't doing less. It was letting her have that space that let her feel like, okay, she can come to me. And I saw that come full circle. I would say her sophomore year, the year after we worked, she went through some pretty deep depression issues and had some really dark moments. And I remember when she talked to a psychiatrist at a very hard appointment we had because she was really low. The psychiatrist asked her, do you have anybody in your life you feel like they're in your corner no matter what? Like you can tell them anything and they'll always love you. And she looked at her and said, yeah, my mom. And it was in that moment I thought, this was all, even all the ups and downs, and we still have our moments. This was worth it because I don't know if she would have said that if I hadn't learned to reach her where she needed to be reached in the way that she needed to be reached, that she felt heard and seen and like I wasn't pushing her. So that for me was probably, even though it was a very awful moment we were in because of, and a lot of it had to do with her own personal thing. That was not about us, but the fact that sitting there, yeah, my mom, like it was like, duh. And I thought, oh, like my shoulders dropped like, okay, you guys are, no matter what, she's in a hard space, but you're going to be okay. You and her are going to be okay. This has helped. It made a difference, even though you felt sometimes you were 2 steps forward, 1 step back. At the end of the day, this is what you wanted. So I don't know if I've ever told you that, but I thought of you in that moment because I really thought, what if I hadn't done this a year ago? And this went a different direction because she was really, really low. And I had tried to push her more instead of understand her more.
Wow. No, you haven't told me that. And I'm getting a little emotional listening to you say that. But that was validation that as hard as it was for you to step back because your internal emotional needs is the connection, spending time and connecting with her. And she was pushing away for space. And as hard as it was for you to give her that space, that is what she needed. And for her to then realize that you were her person and you were always there for her. That had to be huge.
It was.
Wow. So where are you now in your relationships with your kids? And so, Brittany, I know she's a senior this year.
Yeah.
So where are you now? And the hopes that you have in the future of the relationship as compared to maybe where you were when we first got together. Tell me more. I really want to hear, from your perspective.
So it's sort of funny you asked that because I feel like I'm revisiting emotionally a bit of what I had at 14. It's different. She doesn't hate me. I'm not the enemy, but she's definitely pushing for more and more independence, which is normal. She's in that second semester of her senior year and she's got everything figured out in her mind. She doesn't need me, but she does need me, but she doesn't want to need me right now. So I'm getting a little pushback, like, don't ask me questions. I've got it figured out. Just leave me alone. But before that upset me a lot. And now I'm like, okay, well, I'm here when you need me. And I'll even say certain things like, okay, this morning we had a moment and I asked her a question and she got kind of on me and I said, hey, Bella, I know you're almost out of this house. You are 17 though, babe. I still pay all the bills and I'm going to ask questions. You don't have to always like it. It's okay. And if you don't want to talk about it right now, that's fine. But there are things I'm still going to ask because I'm your parent. And when you go to college next year, I'm still going to have questions. I'm not going to doing this to bug you. I'm doing it because I care, but we can talk about it another time. Whereas before I might have like gotten into a argument with her or tried to convince her why I needed to have this discussion. And so there's a kickback and a pushback, but I know how to approach it different. And I don't argue about things that don't matter. I've given her so much more space and leeway, and independence that now she'll come to me. She came home from the gym last night and came to me and said she thinks she knows what she wants to do. And she said, Mom, I'm not sure. All of a sudden, I'm just not sure if that's the career choice I want. What if I don't? And I said, that's okay. I said, if you don't, it's okay. I said, you don't have to even know going into college. And if you go into college and you think that's what you want to do, and a year into it, you decide this isn't for me, you're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to you're allowed to take this risk, take a chance if you think it's what you want and change your mind. And I said, is there something else you would like to do instead? She kind of talked about maybe. And I said, is there a reason? I asked questions instead of trying to tell her, is there a reason you think you don't want to do it? I just don't know. It's going to be too hard or if I'll be able to. Cautious personality. The fear of, can I do this? Am I good enough? And I said, well, I think you can, but I also think if you get into it and it's just not the right fit, that's okay. You don't have to know it all right now. You don't have to have it because we're talking about how we need to decide on a school and we have decided, but we have not signed the school. And I said, it's time to do that. And I think that's why this fear is kicking in. But she would have never come to me with those questions if she felt I was just going to tell her what to do or try to, push her so she feels safe to come to me when she's ready. I try to think it's like a cat right now with her. I love cats. I have a cat, but you don't pick the cat up when you want to play with the cat. You let the cat come to you and then you pet the cat. And the cat sits on your lap and the cat purrs and the cat needs you. But when the cat's done with you, it's like, peace out. And that's kind of how I see it with her right now. So I enjoy when the cat sits on my lap. She hasn't said that. Won't let me touch her. But, when she wants to come to me and has questions and needs stuff, I know when it's important to her and she needs that, she's going to come to me. So I try not to get so easily offended when the moments where she's pushing me away, because I'm like, this is just part of that next step that she needs this independence. So I try to give it to her and just cherish those like glimmer moments I get with her. So that's kind of where we're at. She's probably going to be most likely at a school here in Michigan, a 4-year college. Grand Valley is what she's pretty sure she's going to go to, thinking she wants to do radiation therapy, a 4-year program there. But that could all change. She's definitely got an interest in traveling abroad like her mother. She likes to travel with me. So we do travel together now. She wants to do a study abroad program when she's in college. And I said, of course, I'm supportive of that. Like, go see the world, babe. So, she and I are very close. We do a mother-daughter trip every year now. We started that about 2 years ago, and we're planning one for Canada for a spring break and then one after she graduates. We're not sure where yet. So things are definitely better. We still have bumps. It's never done. It's not like this has been smooth sailing since then, but I have the tools to know that it's not personal and it's not just me. It's part of learning this relationship and revisiting, like, remember, she needs a moment right now. I even have to do that sometimes when she's pushing back. Okay, just she'll even say, Mom, just please leave me alone right now. I just need time alone. And I think to myself, okay, she is telling you I see her personality is saying, give me a minute. Shut up, SI over here. Back up. Just let her do her thing. She'll come to you when she's ready. So that's where we're at now.
That is, and you know what? I went through those same things when my kids got to. There was the middle school push, and then there was the getting ready to go to college push, and it was hard. I mean, it was hard. They got a little sassy with me, and it was almost like when I say that they break up with us for a moment there. You know what I mean? And it's easier to just be mean and nasty and break up, so then I can just be away. Maybe you won't like me. Maybe you won't want to call me as much. And it felt like a breakup. And I remember when Eric was going to college, and he got really hard with it. That I didn't need you. I didn't need anything until the first semester. He got strep throat, and he was calling me for soup and drugs. Bring me an antibiotic, bring me all the things. Then he needed me again, and so we're still there. We're still there on the fringes, but it's not the way it used to be. The fact that you are taking the mother-daughter trips and she wants to do it with you. And I've been following you on social media. You were doing some wonderful things together. It just warms my heart that you are making those memories.
I asked her, do you want to do a friend's trip for spring break? Like, you want to invite a friend when we go? She said, Mom, I think I just want to go with you. She said, I really like meeting new people. Sometimes if I went with a friend, I'd feel like I have to hang out with them or to do what they want to do. And when I go with you, like I can just go like on the cruises. I don't make her hang out with me all day. I tell her, you have to eat dinner with me because I don't want to eat alone. But I let her go to the teen club and she has grown so much. She makes friends. She's got friends all Nigeria, Dubai, England. I mean, all over the world because she goes on these trips with me. She goes to the teen club, makes friends. I let her go and just kind of see the world, get to know people. But then she'll talk to me about everything. But it's because I'm like, I don't care when you come in, but I need to know where you're at. Like it's 2 a.m. and you're playing cards in someone's room. I'm okay with it because she tells me everything. We have a real strong trust bond. That I do feel confident in. But I need to know. I said, you don't give me a reason to doubt you, but I need to know. So I think because I learned to not smother her with that, then it's like, oh, we'll go do an excursion together and have fun, or we'll go and dinner, have fun. But I know I get about an hour or two top. And then she's like, and I've learned just embrace the time you have and let her be, because then she'll want to be around you.
Memories. Jen, you have a son that went to college last year and you have a junior in high school now. So how has that transition been for you? Because like you said, it's been a couple of years since we worked together. You have the plans, but there's still things that are going to happen. So how has this gone for you?
So this is actually Dylan's first year of college. So it's actually, it's almost sort of how you were saying how they break up with you for a little bit. So while he was still home and in high school, he was more or less spending more time with his friends or in his room and playing Fortnite or Minecraft and Dylan likes to info dump. So he would come into our room late at night, like 10:45, 11 o'clock. And that's when he wanted to talk.
Yep.
So when he left for school, now we're very lucky. He's only 15 minutes away. He does live on campus, but we do get to see him like once a week. And he calls us almost every day. So he either calls or texts. So we talk to him way more often than when he was living with us. And he still likes to info dump. He still will call at like 11 o'clock at night and I'm sound asleep, but he calls. He actually called me today and he's like, Mom, I'm just feeling like I have way too much going on. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed because during break, he got a seasonal job and they actually asked him to stay. So he has school every single day. And then 4 days a week he's working. And I said to him, he's like, I don't know what to do. I said, listen, I said, it's your choice. It's completely up to you. I said, maybe try to take a step back from work a little bit. I said, I think school is very important. So you don't have to work 4 days a week. If you want to try 3 days a week, try 3 days a week, but it's completely up to you. It's, you can make this decision. And with Eli, I think we're at the point with Eli where he's broken up with us a little bit. So he has a girlfriend, so he spends a lot of time with her. And, he plays his PlayStation. And with him, it's more like he will talk to me and I let him come to me when he wants to talk about things. So I don't overload him with questions. Lots of times we're in the car. That's when he likes to open up and start talking. I don't know why. Both of them did that as well. But that's where I am with him right now.
Yeah. So you're still connected.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that your son who's in college, who's calling you every day, during the week is just a testimony of the relationships that you have created, of that trust and mutual respect, both of you, that your kids feel safe.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, please.
So we went to, Dylan has started playing ice hockey and he wanted to work for the FAU ice hockey team. So Friday night, he volunteers and he said to Scott, so Scott and I went to watch the game and he said to us before we went, he's like, do you want to come with, his roommate was at the game too. He said, do you want to come out with us in Delray afterwards and we'll go to Tin Roof together? And I'm like, he does think we're cool. He wants to hang out with us.
Right? When you get to that point, and you will cross over that, because I found that when Kyle, and everybody knows my Kyle stories, how hard he was. And when he was having his birthday, when he turned 30, okay, so I know I've been doing this for a while, and he was the reason why I do what I do today, and invited us up. Now I'm in Indiana. Will you come up? Because they were going out to a restaurant and doing this big, I guess, seafood boil restaurant. I forget what that was called, Happy Crab or whatever. Do you want to come and join me and my friends for my birthday? And I was, when you get to that point and they're inviting you, because I'm not around the corner. It was going to be a commitment for us to come up for the weekend. But of course, if you're inviting me, I'm going to be there for you. And it was great to meet his friends, and they all think I'm a saint because they all know Kyle, but it was just wonderful to be able to have those experiences, because this is the relationship and the legacy that lasts a lifetime. And when we go through those rocky years and we struggle because our kids, and I'll be honest with you, in understanding the differences in the personality, and Brittany, we talked about this in your relationship, and I did with mine. I had my internal emotional needs. And when my kids did not meet my internal emotional needs, I became harsher on them, and it became about me instead of me being the mom meeting their social emotional needs. And as Brittany, as you said, when I meet theirs, mine will get met. And I really had to put them first as to what do they need? Who is the mom I need to be for them right now, so that I'm not going to ruin the relationship. And when it comes back around, it'll come back around and be so much better. It's going to look different. I'm sure, Jen, it's looking different for you now. He's, your oldest one is not in the home anymore, but he's calling you all the time. And your younger one's home, but he's creating his relational life because he has a relational life. But they're still communicating with you and making you a part of their world, even if it's in the small bits, as Brittany says. And so I'm so excited to hear. My heart is just leaping with joy, because the most important things we want as parents is to have that relationship that lasts a lifetime, and not feel as though we've ruined it or we corrupted it because we didn't know how to navigate through those bumpy years. And you both have done an amazing job of navigating through that. I'm so proud of both of you. So what would you say to parents who are struggling with their kids about the benefits of the Parenting Blueprint, understanding the personality dynamics, and working with a coach to come up with the strategies that work specific to your family? Jen, I'll start with you, and then we'll close up with Brittany. So, Jen.
Oh, I highly recommend it. I've recommended you to many people. I've talked about you to many people, because I think that, whatever you're trying to do, if you do reach out to a coach and you work with a coach, they're there to help you and support you. And, we're not meant to do all of these things alone. And this is why, why coaches are so important, because they do help you with these things. They do keep you accountable. They help you in all different aspects of life. And I think that what you gave to us and how you helped us with our children, even though we didn't have major issues, it was little tweaks here and there that really, make me take a step back sometimes and say, okay, maybe I'm being too much right now. I need to just be quiet and leave him alone and let him come to me when he wants to come to me. So those are things that I recognized in myself from working with you as well. So not just for the kids, but, my personality too. And I'm very thankful for, working with you and the relationship that we have with our kids.
Yes, I'm grateful for you as well, Jen. You and Scott did an amazing job. I enjoyed, meeting with you guys, and you guys are the yin and yang, your opposite personalities and your parenting styles as well. But the way you balanced each other out to meet the needs of your boys, you've done an amazing job. So Brittany, what would you have to say? You came from a different perspective coming in with Bella and your relationship with a daughter as compared to the boys. But what would you have to say to parents who are struggling as well?
Well, there's a lot I would say. The first thing I would say is that working with you and this Parenting Blueprint probably saved my relationship with my daughter and my husband's. My husband is from another country originally. His personality is different. His parenting style is very different. And he was resistant to stuff like this, but he was not resistant to you. When we talked to you that first time, he had a good feeling. Therapy and things like coaching are not really common. He's from Jamaica originally. So it's like, we can figure this out. We both have a strong faith that's important to us. God can help us, all of those things. And when I found you and we did that call, it was like, oh, he kind of has a good point. And what he realized, this is not therapy. We aren't doing family therapy or parent therapy. We are learning how to understand our child better. So this coaching is different than a coach just telling you, rah, rah, go you, do this. It's coaching that will help you understand who you are as a person, who your spouse is as a person, and who your child is. And if you do the steps given, which are so easily laid out, I mean, the parenting blueprint is written and designed in a way that you can do it at the speed that you need, but it is so doable. If you can commit an hour or two a week tops to just going through the things, reading them, answering the questions, and truly putting just a little thought into it, you're going to see change. If you're not willing to put an hour or two into it a week, I don't recommend it for you. And the reason is Karen is going to teach you, but she can't make it happen for you. You have to want to put a little skin in the game. You have to say, how can I look at myself and see what component I can change about me? This isn't about how can I change my child to be a better child, because all of us are unique individuals. And yes, children have behavior issues and we have to address those. But this isn't about addressing behavior issues. This is about understanding, how does my child tick so that I don't push the buttons even further. I work within the way that they were designed and created. If I understand how they're designed and I understand how I'm designed, I can find where the disconnect is. And I may not even like it. But the reality is, if I figure out what the disconnect is, I can put the pieces together. But the way you do that is truly watching these videos and these worksheets she give you. They don't take long. But for me, I would do them a couple times sometimes. I'd watch it and answer it, and then I'd rewatch it, because I know you learn stuff by hearing repetition, writing it down. So, the more you put into a program like this, the more you're going to get out. But the tools she gives you are there, and you have them forever. Like these tools, like the first time I went through something and she was like, let me resend you that. We updated the thing. If you're not getting in, go rewatch this, go look at that. Here's a YouTube link to this. Like she's going to be on your team forever. And I still will, when I'm going through something, we don't have in-depth conversations, but I'll reach out and she'll be like, yeah, check this one back out. Or remember we talked about this, just little pointers. It just feels like you have someone on your team. And if you're willing to just put a little work in, you're going to see the difference. And if you don't have a spouse that's supportive, it's going to be harder, but it's not going to be impossible, because at least you're going to understand maybe how your husband or spouse or wife or whatever it is ticks. Because if you can at least get them to do the personality profiling, even if they're not on board 100%, you're going to understand them. And Michael was very on board, but I definitely did more work than him. But he did what he'd do. I'd say, we need to do these 3 this week. He'd watch them, but I did the deeper ones, watching the extras. And he would listen to me because he believed in Karen. I know that he should just listen to me because I'm his wife and I'm all knowing. I'm kidding. But he believed in Karen because when he talked to Karen, she helped him understand this from more of an approach that was, it's an objective approach, and it's practical, and it's not about emotions and feelings and feel good and you're the best. And well, if you just try hard, it's not like that. It's more like, okay, cool. So that's not working. So let's look at why it's not working. Instead of just talking about why it's not working and having a cry session, go ahead, cry. That's cool. We can cry. Let's talk through it. Now let's look at how let's back up and kind of dissect it, like reverse process how we got to that, and how next time, what's a different approach we can take. So it really felt like you were learning and growing versus just doing a time where you just talk and then you feel good for 5 minutes, get off the call, and nothing changed. It was really it's an active learning process, but you have to want to participate. So that's my thing. There's no question. I've recommended her to so many people. I want to definitely share this video with friends of mine that I know need it now. So, I will never, ever be able to express the gratitude I have for you, Karen. And to this day, I shared earlier with you when she said to me that she could run with me, and to this day, she feels that way. And I truly don't know if we'd be there without this program and without your guidance. So I recommend you 100%. I am grateful for you. You're one of those people that is going to be like, that movie Inside Out, where you have core values or core memories. I don't know if you've seen Inside Out. Like, you're in that core. Like you're one of you've been a lifesaver and a godsend in my life with my child. And so I thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. And I remember working with you and Michael, and you're right, coming from a different country and having a different mindset about certain things there. But Michael was open. Michael was open, and there were times where you're right. We had to look at the way things were handled and reverse engineer it. Well, what do you think we could have done differently? And he saw it. So I just appreciate the openness that you brought, the transparency that you brought, so that we could make the transformation that you're looking for in this relationship. And Brittany, you guys are amazing women. You're wonderful moms. I am so happy to have had the opportunity to know you and to work with you and your families, and to just see you grow into these beautiful families, and that they're going to be growing. You know that. It's not going to be too long before your families are going to be growing as well. And you'll be able to share your wisdom and knowledge with your children's children. And we basically start to break generational cycles and change the approach of the way we interact and communicate with our kids now and in the future. So thank you so much for sharing your journey, sharing your story. I hope the listeners had an opportunity to kind of feel what you have to say and connect with your stories as well. Both of you are just such amazing human beings. So thank you so much for sharing today. If you enjoyed this episode of Real Talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches, click like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. Our goal is to really transform parenting relationships, because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but you can develop yourself a parenting blueprint so you can reduce that conflict and have better relationships with your kids. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll see you next time.